Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing well. As always, I'm going to pop onto my phone real quick and let's see if we are actually streaming live because if you guys follow me, you know technology is not really my friend. So I just want to pop in real quick and make sure that we are live. All right, so I'm popping in to, yes, it is. Let's make sure we've got some volume. Yes, we do. So we are streaming live into the Profit Factor Facebook group and the Profit Factor YouTube channel and my business Facebook page, The Chic CFO. I'm going to give it a couple minutes for people to hop on. If you are watching this live, go ahead and grant StreamYard permission for me to see your name. Otherwise, when you guys comment, all I see is Facebook user or YouTube viewer. I can't actually see what your name is. It's just the way that StreamYard works. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So those of you who are new here, my name is Danae Wolf. I am a financial clarity coach and a profit strategist, which means I help entrepreneurs like you understand the money side of your business so that you guys are able to increase your profits and decrease your stress. That is the entire intention behind everything that I do in my company. So today I'm really excited for our training topic because if you guys have been following me, you know that the number one metric that matters to me when it comes to business is profit. I think there is a lot of chatter about revenue. And I think a lot of times we hear somebody say, well, I have a six-figure business or a multiple six-figure business, or people saying I have a seven-figure business. And that doesn't tell us how much money is actually going in their pocket, right? Because believe it or not, guys, I've seen $1 million come in revenue and the entrepreneur make less money in profit than a company that does $400,000 a year in revenue. So profit is really the number one metric because let's face it, we all started our businesses to make money, and profit is the money that goes into your pocket as the business owner. You get paid from the profits of the company. So that's what's really, really, really important. So today I wanted to talk about the best ways to increase your profit. And I think I've said it to you guys quite a few times. You really want to think of your business's profit as back when you were a W-2 employee, it's your gross pay, right? So those of you who came from the corporate world or ever had any type of a job, I'm sure you remember how you would have your gross pay. And then, of course, you'd have to pay Uncle Sam and you'd get your net paycheck. So as an entrepreneur, you want to think about the profit in your business as your gross paycheck, because that is what you will then ultimately owe taxes on. And then the net of that is the money that you get to put in your pocket. So the first distinction that I really want to make sure you guys understand is this difference between sales and profit. And what I said earlier today is how we hear a lot of talk of, I have a six-figure business, I have a seven-figure business. 99% of the time, what an entrepreneur means when they're saying that is what their revenue is, right? So they're saying my business generates multiple six figures a year in revenue, or, seven figures a year in revenue, but that doesn't tell us what their profit is. That is the number that matters, right? Because you could have a business that does $100,000 in revenue this month, and maybe your profit is only $3,000. So if you were walking around saying, I did six figures this month, well, the business generated six figures this month, but that's not what you put in your pocket. So here's how I want you guys to really think about this and be able to differentiate it. Sales are what your customers pay your business. Profits are what your business pays you. So that's really that ultimate distinction here, right? So I'm going to say it again, especially if you're listening on the podcast. I think if you guys are watching on YouTube or watching on my Facebook group, you're able to read this statement on the screen. But if you're listening onto the podcast, I just want to repeat it for you. Sales are what your customers pay your business. Profits are what your business pays you. So again, being able to recognize this distinction of our revenue, our sales that our business generates versus the money that we actually get to put in our pocket, because that is the profit of our business. And our profit equals sales minus expenses. So if your revenue is $100,000 this month, but you have $97,000 worth of expenses, you only have a profit of $3,000, which means you as the owner are only getting paid $3,000. So I want to talk about the ways in which we can increase the profit. Now, in its most simplistic terms, as I've stated, the equation for your profit of your business is sales minus expenses equals profit. So, what can we do in order to make sure that the profit is as big as possible? Well, I'm going to tell you one of the hands down best ways to increase the profits in your business is bookkeeping. And I know that bookkeeping has a very negative connotation, right? Nobody wants to do bookkeeping. But I've got to tell you, bookkeeping doesn't have to suck, okay? Bookkeeping can be beautiful, all right? And I know that's a very dramatic word, but hear me out. Bookkeeping is going to be the absolute only way that you can see what is happening in your business financially. Hands down, there is nothing else that you can do that is going to give you that type of a read on your business besides bookkeeping. You have to be able to organize the data, all of the financial transactions, and understand where the money's coming from and where the money's going. Remember the equation for profit, right? It's sales minus expenses equals profit. So you have all of the revenue that comes into your business. You pay all of the business expenses, and then what's left over is your profit. Think about it the way you run your household, right? So you bring home your pay, and then you've got to pay your mortgage, your utilities, your car payment, groceries, all of those things, right? And then what's left over is your fund money, right? So it's a similar concept with your business. You've got your revenue that comes in, you pay out all of the expenses, and then what's left over is the profit. That's the fun part. That's why we get up and do what we do every day. It's in order to generate a profit. And I think a lot of times, and I've talked about this a lot with you guys, we just get into this mindset of trying to throw money at our problems. So, as entrepreneurs, if our bank balance is not quite where we want it, we just go out and start chasing sales. We start chasing revenue and trying to increase our revenue. And the reason why that can be so incredibly dangerous is because number one, when you are increasing revenue, what are we doing? We're making more work for ourselves, okay? Clients don't just give us money for no reason. If revenues are increasing, it means that productivity is increasing, right? We are selling more, whether it's a service or product, we're doing more. The business is doing more, which means that it's more work. So in order to increase our revenues, we've got to do more work. Well, if the goal of increasing that revenue is to make more profit, and that doesn't happen, now we're working more, but making the same. which is a total cluster and isn't going to make anybody happy. And you're going to feel like you're running on a hamster wheel and you're not getting anywhere. Because the reality is, if your ship is sinking, whether or not you bring in buckets and buckets of more revenue, your boat is still going down. You are basically funneling those new sales into a sinking ship. Because if your process is broken, it's going to be broken whether your revenue was $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, because money will not fix your problems if your problem is you. And the only way to be able to actually identify what the problem is bookkeeping. That is really where all of the answers lie. And listen, I understand that bookkeeping is a skill set, right? This is not something that we're taught in school. It's not something that is, for most people, right? It's not something that's really going to come naturally, but especially for the entrepreneurial community, we tend to be creatives. It is a totally different side of our brain that we're utilizing in the creativity that birthed our businesses. And it's the polar opposite side of the brain that would be doing something as tedious as bookkeeping. So it's really not for everyone. But what I would say to you is you have to learn to prioritize it. So if you're someone that says, listen, I value what can happen to my business if I start taking my bookkeeping seriously, so I'm going to roll my sleeves up and learn how to do it myself. Go for it. If you guys want to do that, take a look at my course, Profit Perfect. I will definitely put it in the comments below. That is there for you if you want to DIY it. And if that is your journey, go for it. However, if you don't have the time, if you just simply don't want to DIY it, all I'm asking is that you strongly consider outsourcing it to someone who will. I think too often entrepreneurs just say bookkeeping is boring, bookkeeping sucks, I don't want to do it, and it's not important. So I'm just going to let it slide. And at the end of the year, in order to pay my taxes, I'm just going to give my accountant my bank statements, and that's that. And the problem is, you're missing a very important piece. While bookkeeping is a necessity in order to file taxes, the reality is the second component to bookkeeping is that it gives you knowledge about your business that can really help you move the needle. So when you are waiting until the end of the year to just throw receipts in a shoebox, print out all your bank statements, and give them to your tax preparer, you've really put yourself at a disadvantage because you have missed in real time data that can help you make strategic decisions in your business. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not making decisions in your company based on what your numbers are telling you, you're probably not making the right decisions in your company. And if you are, you're getting lucky, because you can only get by on luck for so long. At a certain point, at a certain level in our entrepreneurship, we've got to be strategic. I don't think I need to remind you guys of the hellhole that was 2020. Who survived in the entrepreneurial community? Think about it. Those of us who did a massive pivot. How did we do that? We had to be strategic. We had to really think about it. It wasn't something that you were just going to fly by the seat of your pants and see what worked. You had to strategize. You should always be doing that in your business. It shouldn't be something that just comes up when, a pandemic hits and you're in catastrophe mode and you're like, oh, I really got to be smart about this. Even if you are profitable, you should be strategic in every decision that you make. Because again, I believe if you're not making strategic decisions in your business, you're really getting by on luck, and eventually luck is going to run out. So I think it's important that you guys understand that if you want to make more money, you need to know where the hell the money is. You need to know where it's coming from. You need to know where it's going. And the only way to do that, guys, is through bookkeeping. And if you don't want to DIY it, I get it. I totally get it. But just please realize it's value enough in order to outsource. If you guys want to outsource, shoot me a PM. I'm happy to talk to you guys about it. We've got 3 more spots left to take on more monthly clients, and we're happy to be here and serve you guys. So let me know. But whether it's my company or another one, I just really want you guys to understand that you are really, really putting your business at a disadvantage if you don't have proper bookkeeping done. So hi, Heather. We've got Heather popping into the live. Thanks for tuning in. So I think that if you guys are able to look at bookkeeping with as much importance as maybe you look at marketing your company or, processing payroll for your team. I think that's something, us entrepreneurs make sure we do it, right? It's got to be done every other week. We make sure we log into Gusto, ADP, whatever you guys use, and you pay your employees, right? Because it's important. It has to get done. We have to look at our bookkeeping the same way. And I think if you guys looked at bookkeeping through the lens of, this is not just something I do to appease Uncle Sam and file a tax return. This is something that I do because it's going to help me increase profits. If you guys take anything from this training today, please realize that bookkeeping is the #1 way to increase your profits, because you have to know what's going on with the numbers. I'm telling you, the answers will jump off the page at you. So bookkeeping, #1 best way to increase your profits. Now let's talk about the next best way to increase your profits. So if you want to be able to increase the profits in your business, you've got to evaluate your pricing. And I think a lot of times I know a lot of times when I ask entrepreneurs, how did you come up with your pricing? I usually get very fluffy answers. And what I want you guys to know is that pricing is not a feeling, okay? Pricing is an equation. It's a formula. We have to, again, be strategic when setting our prices. And I think a lot of times I get a very blanket sort of, it's 3 times cost, right? Well, where did you get the multiplier of 3? And they can't tell me. They're just like, I don't know. I just saw it 3 times. Well, maybe that multiplier only had to be 2. Maybe it needed to be 4. Maybe it needed to be 5. So it's important that we really are able to follow an exact equation to ensure that we are pricing our products or services the right way. Now, in Profit Perfect, my course, we go through an entire training module on this. I've got this brilliant spreadsheet, but here is the basics of what you guys have to understand when it comes to pricing your product or your service. So essentially, you've got to first know, what is the cost of sales? What's the cost of goods, right? So what that really means, I'm going to go back to my roots of owning a restaurant. Let's say you own a restaurant. Your cost of goods is going to be purchasing the actual food, right? So that's what it costs you to actually be able to deliver your product. So if your product is food, your cost of goods is all of the food that you had to purchase, right? But the second component that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to skip, because I think most of you would say, oh, well, I have to know what it costs me to make this, right? What it costs me to make the product, what it costs me to issue the service. So if you're a cleaning company, which I know a lot of you guys are, you're thinking, okay, my cost of goods is going to be the cleaning supplies that they use in the home that they clean, and then the cost of my staff to be out there and clean. But here's the piece that a lot of people miss. Outside of the costs for performing your actual service or delivering your product, you also have operational costs. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a cleaning company, we're going to have, just to be able to go out there and clean the homes, the cost of the cleaner and the cost of the cleaning supplies. You guys know damn Skippy, there are way more costs associated with your business. You've got to pay those cleaners on payroll, right? Well, you're going to pay a monthly payroll fee to your payroll company. You're going to be doing office work, right? So probably going to be spending some money at Staples. You're going to want some type of a CRM. So you're going to spend a couple $100 a month on a ZenMaid or a Launch 27. You're probably going to need some type of administrative assistance. So you're going to spend a couple $100 a month on a virtual assistant. You're going to have to market your business. So you're going to spend about 10% a month on marketing your business. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? There is many more costs associated with your business than just the costs that you spend in order to actually execute your product or service. Those operational costs have got to be considered. So here is how I want you guys to really look at it. What does it cost to deliver your service or product? What are your operational costs of the business? And then we've got one more important component that really tends to be forgotten. And this one, I got to just be dramatic and say it. This one breaks my heart because it happens a lot. And the piece that we forget is owner's compensation. I speak to so many of you who are working harder than you've ever worked in your life. You are literally superheroes, working 7 days a week, making sure that everyone on your team is getting paid. All of your clients are happy. And at the end of the day, you're not bringing home a paycheck. Or if you are, it's not enough to cover your personal needs because you're forgetting that component when you set your pricing. So what you really need to do is make sure that you determine what do you need to get paid each month out of your business. What is the gross pay? All right. And that's another side note. That's another common mistake entrepreneurs make. If you know that you need $3,000 a month to support yourself, that doesn't mean that you need your business to pay you $3,000 a month, right? That's what you have to net. So you need to gross that up. You need your business to pay you more so that you can account for paying taxes. Otherwise, you're going to get on Uncle Sam's bad side and it's a whole thing and we don't want to go there. So I need you to know what are your operational costs each month and what is the gross pay that you want each month. All right. So those are the first two numbers I want you guys to calculate. Then I want you to take a look at your product or your service and I want you to deduct the cost of goods, right? The actual cost that you have to pay in order to execute that. So if you're a cleaning company, I want you to think, all right, I charge $50 an hour. I pay my cleaners $20 for the hour. So off of every single cleaning, I've got a profit of $30, right? Then I want you to say, I know that it costs, $3,000 a month in order to cover my gross pay and my operational costs. So now you need to know how many of those services do you need to execute in order to do that. And that is where the magic happens. Do you see how we took a very strategic approach to figuring this out rather than just saying, oh, it's 3 times the cost? So let's run some real numbers and look at this. All right. So let's say your service is $500 and your expenses to execute that service are $100. That means that every single time that you execute a service, you're left with a gross profit of $400. All right. Now, let's say that your operational costs are $1,600 a month and the gross pay that you yourself need is another $1,600 a month, right? So now we've got a total of $3,200 that we are going to need every single month in order to cover our operational costs and our owner's compensation. So that $3,200, what we're now going to do is divide it by the profit of each of our services. So we know that the profit of our service is $400. We're going to take that 3,200, divide it by 400. The answer is 8. All right. So this is the same scenario you guys are going to run through in your business. So you're going to figure out operational costs and your gross pay. That's the first equation to figure out. What is that amount? Then you're going to take a look at the product you deliver or the service that you deliver and say, what do I charge? What does it cost me in order to do that? And what is the gross profit off of that? Then you take your operational expenses, your owner's compensation, and you get that total and you divide it by the profit of your service or product that you sell. That's going to tell you how many cleanings you need to do a month if you're a cleaning company. It's going to tell you how many widgets you need to sell per month if you sell widgets. It's going to tell you how many online courses you need to sell per month if you sell online courses, and so on and so forth. Then what you need to do is look at that answer and say, do I have the capability of executing that many services? Can I actually do that? So if you run this equation and you determine that you need to do 500 cleanings a month in order to achieve this, you need to ask yourself, can I do that? Do I have the manpower to do 500 cleanings? Do I have the ability to get that many clients? Do I need to increase marketing? This is what you have to do. This is the equation and the steps that you have to take to really be able to sit back and make a smart, conscious decision as to what your pricing is. If you do this equation and you determine, hey, I need to do 500 cleanings a month, and that is actually impossible for me based on where you are, whether it means you can't hire the staff, your radius in the town is too small, and you just wouldn't be able to get that many customers, whatever the reason is that you feel it's not a realistic goal for you. Well, now you got to go back and tweak. You're going to have to compromise on what you pay yourself. You're going to have to compromise on what those operational expenses are. Maybe you got to switch to a cheaper CRM. Maybe you're going to have to get rid of the virtual assistant and do the work yourself. You have to make tough decisions. But as an entrepreneur, we've got to make tough decisions every day. Wouldn't it be nice to make those decisions with your eyes open and knowing what your actual choices are? And the only way to do this, right? What was the first thing I told you to do? Get your operational costs together and how much you need to pay yourself. Well, how are you going to know what your operational costs are? By understanding what your numbers are, right? Well, how are you going to do that? By bookkeeping, which is why the number one thing that I told you you had to do in order to increase your profit is to make sure that you have rock solid bookkeeping, because we have to know all of this. So again, if you guys want to make sure that you're increasing your profit, DIY your bookkeeping. I'm going to link Profit Perfect below. It's an amazing course. I'm very proud of it. It includes QuickBooks Online tutorials, which will make life very easy. You've got direct access to me for any type of bookkeeping questions you might have. But if you're not the DIY type, shoot me a PM. We are taking on new clients. And if it's not my company, we're not going to be a good fit for you, find another bookkeeper. There's some amazing bookkeepers out there. There's some terrible ones too, so please vet them. But just prioritize it, because it has to happen. You guys are hurting your business by not having proper bookkeeping. I think we all know the saying, knowledge is power, right? You have to know what your numbers are, because then you've got to actually be strategic in setting your pricing and saying, okay, every time I do a cleaning, I walk away with $30. I then have to spend, $3,200 a month to pay myself and in order to cover my operational expenses. So now I know I have to do 100 cleanings a month. Is that realistic? Can I do that? And now you guys have these tangible goals that make sense, that are backed by data. I talk to people all the time who say, oh, my goal is to be $1 million cleaning business. And I'm like, why? Why? Oh, well, I need to make, 300,000 a year, or whatever the reason is they give. And I'm like, okay, but you could do that on 700,000. Why do we want to hit 1 million? Why are we chasing these numbers that we've pulled out of thin air? I want you guys to be intentional with the goals that you set. We don't just say we want to be $1 million cleaning business for no reason. Do you know the headache that is to be $1 million cleaning business? Now, if you know exactly what your paycheck and compensation is going to be off of that, and that's what you're striving for, and you know the life that you want, and this, that, and the third, I'm all for it. Shoot, go ahead and be a $10 million cleaning company. I'm just saying, make sure that you're intentional with it and you know why that's the goal. And it's not just something we're pulling out of thin air. Same thing with your pricing. Know why it's set that way and not just having it be something you pull out of thin air. Somebody asked in the comments, will there be a playback on this so I can study this? Yes. This is streaming to YouTube, and what we will do is pull the link for that and drop it in the comments here so that you guys will have access to it. I'm also going to be linking my course, Profit Perfect. This is a great option for those of you who want to do your own bookkeeping, and I will link my free profit plan for you guys as well. So I hope that this training was helpful. I hope that you've learned that if you want to be able to increase your profits, you really have to get your bookkeeping under control and your pricing under control. I will see you guys again next week with another brand new training. And if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. I do my best to respond to each and every message. Talk to you guys soon.